Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, action.
Assume nothing.
Brash, bald-faced blasphemy.
Question everything.
I find it extremely hard to imagine.
Open your eyes.
It is quite all right to be an atheist.
The fastest growing group of people in the country has been measured as being those who have no belief or who are atheists.
You don't have to be apologetic or quiet about it.
Challenge the opposition.
You see religion on 100 fronts losing the argument.
And start thinking. This is The Thinking Atheist Worldwide.
It is hard to believe it is already the month of October, isn't it? I heard somebody say once that life is like a roll of toilet paper. It spins faster and faster as you get toward the end. And I feel like I just blinked, and it's October already. We've been cracking up around here. It's funny at the office. They you know how it is. You're always forwarding a funny clip, something you see that makes you laugh, and you send it to the people you think will laugh with you. So somebody was frustrated about something. I don't know if it was a client or a project wasn't working out in some way, and he was trying to sort of paint the picture as to how frustrated he was, and he sent this clip out, and the clip was called "Screaming Goat." I click it's on YouTube. I click the link. There's a little fence, and behind the fence is a goat, and the goat just sits there for a second. And then out of the blue, the goat opens its mouth and does this. And just to hear that sound come out of an animal. We have been laughing about that all day. Just, it's hysterical. So anyway, we were talking about it a little earlier, and I got tickled. So I'm trying to find all of my prep material and figure out where everything is. Coming up here in the month of October, by the way, next Tuesday, we're doing a show called Atheists on the Left, Atheists on the Right, because I had some people ask me about doing a show on politics. And I'd just rather not. But the election's almost upon us here in the United States. And as some people know, and we've had a discussion about this or that on the Facebook page, people will ask, well, are all atheists on the left, or are they on the right, or are they in the middle, or where do they come from? And of course, the answer is, well, they can be anywhere. I mean, atheism just means you are atheist, non-theist. You reject a belief in any God. But it doesn't necessarily speak to what you believe fiscally, politically, whatever. But does your atheism inform your belief? And so we're doing a show where we're going to talk about atheists on the left and atheists on the right. And my hope is it'll be a civil and entertaining show. Coming up on the 16th, we're going to do a show finally on the Church of Satan. Now, I contacted the Church of Satan, the Church of Satan, months and months and months ago, back when I had the show scheduled, I think for late spring. And I got a response from someone who said, yes, we would be available and or interested to do an interview with you, provided you do some homework. I guess they are surrounded by people who say, devil worshippers, y'all are a Church of Satan. And it's really a different kind of animal, which if you were raised like I was, in the Church of Satan, you obviously sacrifice animals, you drink blood, and you worship the devil. Well, we're going to talk about the Church of Satan. However, when I recontacted them for a rescheduled interview, and I've tried twice, I haven't gotten any reply. So either they were scared off by the atheist in the title of my show, or they are just way busy, or, I don't know, they're busy sitting around, just kind of doing this. So, but anyway, we're going to talk about it. So we'll have people, we've got people who are Satanists who participate in the Thinking Atheist pages. And we'll welcome emails and calls from those people, and we'll just find out what it is why it is, how can you be an atheist and a Satanist, how are the two compatible. I just thought it was a good October subject, and I'm interested in the subject. It's always interesting to go in and learn about these things. Finally, on the 23rd, I've scheduled another Ghost Stories podcast. I thought about whether or not I should do it again this year, because we've done 2 Octobers in a row as we approach the Halloween holiday. But I'm a sucker for ghost stories. And it's a lighthearted thing. I get, some people get pissed off and say, how come you're not covering the important topics? But I like, from time to time to just have fun. And I love to share a good ghost story. And so we'll do those. You can email your favorites or call in, talk about an experience you had. There are some atheists I know who don't believe in God, but they do believe in spirits and the spirit world or what have you. We'll get into some of that and mostly just have a really good time. So we got a busy October. Coming up on Saturday, this Saturday, the 6th of October, I'm going to be up at the Kentucky Free Thought Convention. And there are still $10 tickets available for that. If you want to go to the website, kyfreethoughtconvention.com. Is it com? Let me make sure. Free Thought Convention.com. Yeah. freethoughtconvention.com. You'll see the list of speakers, registration information. It's a whole day. It's going to be an amazing time up in Lexington, Kentucky. So I'm very excited about being there. And then finally, on the 27th of this month, join me in Little Rock, Arkansas. It's Reason in the Rock. That's going to be a great time. Geez, I feel like I've just been doing housekeeping for the last few minutes, just trying to get caught up on everything. But I want to make sure you know what's happening in the next 30 days. I would love a chance to be able to just hang out. Again, the convention scene is really a wonderful time for me to sort of connect with people. And they're just so wonderful and gracious. They come in and they tell me their stories. They talk about when and how they listen, which is their favorite video, which is their favorite speech, what have you. They have ideas. It's just a really good time. And I always leave those events really, really charged up. So I hope I get a chance to see you. We're talking about relationships that are sort of mixed and some would say mismatched. The title of the show is My Partner is Religious. And I have received a lot of different opinions on the subject. Some people are extremely frustrated because maybe their partner changed their belief. Maybe their beliefs were sort of transitioning whenever they met. And now they don't know what to do with each other. Others knew it at the beginning. Other people say they wouldn't touch a religious person with a 10-foot pole. And so I figure I'll just find out what you have to say on the issue with your emails and your calls. Our first call, 719. Thanks for waiting. You're on the Thinking Atheist Radio podcast. Who's this?
Hey, Seth.
Yeah, who's this?
My name's David.
David, thanks for calling. We're talking about people who have relationships with a religious person. Can you speak to that?
I sure can. I would say my wife and I were both very religious, both grew up in Christian homes, and I guess I've really been on a search for truth my whole life, and, the last couple of years have been kind of a turning point for me, not for her yet, so I guess that creates some stress in a marriage.
Well, do you guys argue? Is it a problem?
Well, I guess I wouldn't say a problem. Argue, I guess on the nicer side of argue, it isn't heated, drawn out, hot-tempered argument, but maybe becoming an argument of ideas when initially I had no desire at all to change her mind or what her belief system is, and I still don't want to do that. But I guess recently she's starting to ask me more questions or challenging why I don't believe or challenging why I believe what I do believe. So it's been difficult, but it's been good in its own ways.
So you made it work so far anyway?
So far, yeah.
All right.
This is something to talk about.
All right. Anything else?
No, I just want to call in and thank you. You've really, with your background, and I really relate to what your story is very much. And I just challenge everyone out there, whether, regardless of their belief system, to challenge it, to always seek truth and have an open mind, and to make sure you can defend your position effectively. Terrific, man. Well, thanks for kicking off the show with me. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening. Take care, okay? Okay, bye-bye. Bye. 301, thanks for waiting. You are on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast.
Hi.
Hi, who's this?
Emily.
Hi, Emily. We're talking about relationships that are sort of mixed up. You got a non-believer and a believer.
Yeah. So I've never been in a romantic relationship. I've never even kissed anyone before, but I always thought I would only really want to end up with another atheist. But then I do have religious friends and friendships, and I realized that it probably could work very similarly to the way a religious person and an atheist dating could work. Because if you're able to enjoy spending a lot of time and talking about lots of things that you do have in common with someone, and kind of avoid bringing up the, difference in opinion, like I have a Mormon friend and we, it's awkward a little bit. It's the fact she knows I'm an atheist and I know she's Mormon, but we, kind of avoid that subject, and she's still a really nice person and she likes me, and I think we're, that kind of thing can probably work similarly in some, relationships. It just depends on how you, deal with the religion subject, probably. So you gel in other ways, and you enjoy each other enough that it sort of overrides the disagreements you have on the subject of religion. Would that be accurate? Yeah, I think so. You haven't kissed a boy yet, huh? No. You need me to send somebody over there? I got thousands of people listening right now. Well, actually, no, I'm just kidding. I have a profile on OkCupid, and there's plenty of atheists in my area that I can meet up with, so that's always good. I'm gonna go on my first date sometime very soon. I'm getting up the courage. That's awesome. Just take your time, go at your pace. It's all good, and I hope you find somebody who gels with you. Okay, thanks for the call. Thanks. All right, take care. I had a message in from Gabe. He said this. He said, relationships between believers and non-believers can work, but I think a lot of it depends on where the two people involved are in the states of belief. It may help to think of belief as being on the number line. The closer the two people are to each other, the more likely it is their relationship may last. For example, a very liberal, wishy-washy believer might not have much of a problem getting along with a less fervent atheist, whereas an ardent fundamentalist wouldn't, or to be more extreme, like a Jeff D. of the atheist experience type, wouldn't work out with a Shirley Phelps type. Actually, I don't think Shirley Phelps could be with anybody. What a poisonous human being she is. Anyway, back to Gabe's letter. He said, I've been with my girlfriend now for over 8 years. She's a very liberal cafeteria Catholic who, much like I was as a kid, and I'm more of an agnostic atheist. Religion isn't really a big deal. It's not something we talk about that often because it leads to accusations, always by her, of closed-mindedness, personal attack, and offense. Not too long ago, I discovered my university's atheist secular group. Her response was facepalm worthy. Does that mean I need to start going to church more since that's what you're doing? This sounds like it might be a major issue, but not 5-10 minutes after such a conversation, we tend to laugh it off and go back to normal. I know we're going to be headed towards more difficult disagreements when it comes to weddings and children, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. He continues, I remember early on in our relationship, she would pester me to go to service with her. This was back when we were in college, and she still went semi-regularly, and now she only goes a few times a year when her father's in town. Anyway, I went one time to a small Catholic church just off our school's campus. Throughout the informal outdoor service, I was both amused and horrified at what I saw. It was amusing because I found it absurd these people would actually believe this, and because of the robotic way they responded whenever the priest said something. It was this robotic behavior and rhythmic arm swaying and murmuring that accompanied a song. Afterwards, she asked me what I honestly thought of it.
Her mistake. I told her it was interesting and creepy at the same time. That robotic cult-like behavior disturbed me, as did all the looks I got when I just stood there defiantly when everybody else went up for communion. Their robotic devotion to this story reminded me of Trekkies. You know, those folks that think Star Trek is real. And yes, there are those out there. There's a couple documentaries. I think they're called Trekkies. I'll get back to that, Gabe. Funny stuff, especially the one woman who works at a Kinko's while in full next-generation uniform and insists on being addressed as commander. She hasn't asked me to go with her since to church. He finishes, I think I'm lucky in the sense we don't have kids. Children would make the situation even more complicated. I don't think deconversion or reconversion of your partner should ever be a goal. Your interaction should be based upon respect. Would I be glad if she rejected the silly superstitions and stood with me in defiance of peers and family pressure as an atheist? Absolutely. Just as I'm sure she'd be overjoyed if I were to return to the faith. But since our respective religious stances are hardly a major part of either of our lives, it's hardly a deal breaker. A co-worker of hers lent her a copy of C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity and suggested we read it together. She didn't even get halfway through it when she said to me that although Lewis does make some decent analogies at times, most of his arguments make no sense. There's so often such a leap of logic, she cannot see how he thinks the argument works. Although, like I said before, deconversion's hardly a goal, things like this make me glad I found one of the more rational believers. Gabe, thank you so much for the message. Two things I want to cherry pick out of your email and talk about. First of all, she says you're closed-minded, and I hear this a lot. We addressed this when I was in Denver at the Ascent of Atheism event. And I heard a great, and I think I mentioned this on a podcast, and I'll do it again. It was something that Christopher Hitchens was talking about in the film Collision. And they were talking about the accusation of being closed-minded. And I don't recall the author he was referring to who sort of fleshed this out, but it's a really good way of looking at it. It's okay to close your mind on something. Open minds are meant eventually to close on something, right? We've all heard the, sort of the cliche, don't be so open-minded your brain falls out. But the reason we have an open mind is because we are looking for an answer, a satisfactory conclusion that we can then close upon, not seal shut forever. Not seal shut forever. You know, it's always testable. You know, better information could pry it back open, but sometimes your mind will close on a satisfactory conclusion. And you say, yeah, that makes sense. You know, until something comes along that pries it right open, it's going to be closed on this. It's okay to be closed-minded from time to time. It just is. And people will look at you and say, oh, you think you're smarter than everybody else? What, do you think you have the answers that we don't? Are you arrogant? You know, don't be afraid of being accused of being arrogant. You know, don't be arrogant, but you're going to hear the accusation. It's okay to close your mind on a satisfactory conclusion, at least until you encounter something stronger. Secondly, I did see the documentary Trekkies. They don't believe it's real, but they have adopted the Trek lifestyle as something they believe can be emulated, right? Where color doesn't matter and race doesn't matter and everybody's equal and everybody's beautiful, and they just like Trek was very humanistic. It just was. And a lot of people enjoy the fantasy aspect of it. They enjoy acting out. They enjoy dressing up to an extreme degree. One lady showed up for jury duty dressed in, I don't know if she was in some kind of a classic Trek uniform complete with a communicator and the whole thing. She got dismissed. Wasn't safe. They didn't keep her, you know. They took one look at her and it was just like... So she didn't, but she's the sweetest little lady. And there's a whole culture of these people who really, they get it. They get Trek to such a degree that they've incorporated all those rituals into their lives. I found the documentary fascinating. The most disturbing thing to me, though, was the kid who turned his father's pickup and trailer camper into an Enterprise space shuttle. he wasn't old enough to drive, I don't think. So his dad, everywhere his dad carted him around, he's driving around. And there's a pickup truck, and there's this big camper on the back that is mocked up just like the space shuttle. And I thought, this kid is never gonna get laid. I had an email in from Christopher. He said, I'm afraid I would not be able to respect someone as a mate who believes in things that aren't there. Can't help it. Sorry. Back to the phones. 252, you're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Who's this?
Hello?
Hey,
Yeah.
Who's this?
Hey, this is Chris in North Carolina. So this is my third show now. You razzed me the last time.
All right, 3 weeks in a row. Let's make it fast. What's going on?
Yeah, look. So the short story is I kind of found myself in the reverse situation. The long story short is I had started down my trip toward atheism, and I met the lady who is my current wife. And one of the things she said out right from the start when we met was she hoped I wasn't religious, and so I said, no, I'm not. But at some point halfway in our relationship, I kind of, inside, without telling her, I thought to myself, this relationship isn't going to work because I was sort of, the brainwashed, guilty side of me kind of said, the whole atheism thing is wrong and there really is a God, and I'm going to have to give up this wonderful woman because I know at some point in the future, probably very soon, I'm going to go back to Christianity because, well, I'm really just being rebellious and I'm going to have to come back to God, and there's no way I can stay with this woman because she doesn't believe in God. And so I found myself very torn between the lady who is now my wife, my love for her, and then the religion side of me that said I was going to head back toward religion at some point. And it was actually she who, I think, at that critical point in my life where I had to choose, where I was sort of in there choosing what I was going to do, she actually kept me away from religion long enough that I think I probably could credit my atheism today a good deal to her. I think if she had not been there at that point in my life, I probably would have, out of convenience and guilt, gone back to the other side and would probably be a practicing Christian today.
Sure.
Did any of that just make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. I'm glad you shared that perspective with us, man. Thanks for listening, Chris. Take care of yourself, okay?
You do the same too, Tate.
All right. 310. Hi, you're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Who's this?
Hello, sir.
Hey, who's this?
Hi, my name is Othniel. I'm from Southern California.
Thanks for calling the show. We're talking about partners who are religious. You have experience in this?
Yes, sir, I do. I'm actually planning on getting married on the 24th of January of next year, and my fiance is religious. I would put it that way. I did get her to believe in evolution, but she still believes that God put it into motion.
Well, is it a source of contention at all? You guys have the discussion, or are you avoiding it because you guys are just both so in love?
I guess a little bit of both. We actually first met in church, so she has the upper hand, I guess. But she knows that I do not believe anymore. She knows where I stand, and she respects that. She said, you treat me better than a lot of guys I dated that were in church. She treats me a lot better than a lot of the girls that I dated that aren't Christian. So I guess we both have it good at this point.
You guys gel
so we
personally.
don't really talk about it a lot, but when we do talk about it, things do get a little bit tense, so we both just step away, let things cool down, and then talk about different things.
All right, so in 5 years, you guys decide you're going to start a family. It's time for the kid to go to school or church or what have you. Have you guys talked at all about how you might handle whether or not the child was introduced to religion and how?
Yes, we did. We got to the conclusion that we're not going to have kids.
Okay, well, that's one way to get out of it, I guess.
Yeah,
sure.
If it were to happen, she does not believe in abortion, so if it does happen, then I guess we'll have to cross that bridge at that point. But we're not planning on having any kids because I was raised in church from like a little kid, and I went to Christian college, and I was in praise and worship. I was doing Christian theater. I was doing all these things in church. And now that I'm out, I'm looking back, and I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, why were you doing all this stuff, and why were you just being in there so much time out of the week? Like, I was in church almost every day out of the week. So that was my whole life. I didn't know anything else besides that, so I would not want my kids to go through that.
Well, I don't have a problem with the child being introduced to church as long as it's done in the context of, hey, this is what this religion believes. By the way, there are thousands of other denominations out there and all these other religions, and here's what they believe. And it becomes more of a, you sort of tackle it more forensically, you know, more than, hey, you don't want to go to hell, do you, kid? That kind of thing. So,
yeah, I'd agree with that. Exposing all religions, or, well, as many as you can, because there's just so damn many of them.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think that's healthy, and I think that, you know, people can make their own choices in the end. I don't believe that Christians are stupid necessarily. I don't believe Buddhists are stupid. It's whatever works for them. If you're raised in that, and honestly, my fiance is probably one of the most intelligent people I've had the honor to talk to. I may be a little bit biased on this one, but hey, take my word for it.
We agree. You know, it's not about intelligence. There are other factors in play. I mean, you'll find some stupid religious people, but you'll also find some stupid.
You'll find stupid atheists.
You will find stupid atheists. What's the date of your wedding, by the way? What day?
24th of January.
Congratulations for the 24th. A great way to kick off 2013. And hope you guys have a wonderful, long, and happy life together, okay?
Thank you very much.
Take care of yourself. Congratulations. That's fantastic. I had an email from Kyle. He said, hey, I used to listen. He said, I listen to your show a lot, and I think you do an excellent job. Thank you, Kyle. He said, I haven't called or written before, as I didn't think I had a particularly relevant story. However, for the latest show, I think it's perfect. He says, I'm originally from the UK, but for the past 6 months, I've been living in Warsaw, Poland, in order to do a PhD in paleontology. It's a little strange being an atheist in a country in which something like 90 to 95% of the population is Catholic. In the last 2 months, I've started dating a Polish girl who's a church every Sunday Catholic girl. She knows I'm an atheist and has told me that so long as I respect the fact that she believes, then she also respects the fact that I do not. She certainly doesn't expect me to go with her to church, for example. And even when we enter one briefly, she's told me she's fine if I don't go through the whole holy water and chest crossing process that she does. As it's early days, I think it seems like this won't be a problem for us. And generally, we just don't talk about religion that much, but I worry later on it may be. I don't really want to attack her religion, as I really like her and don't want an unnecessary strain on our relationship. We met at a paleontological excavation and do not actually live in the same city. We only see each other once every 1 to 2 weeks or so at weekends. What do you make of all this? Well, I'm not a relationship expert, but I can tell you what I think just from my own perspective, and that is that it's difficult in the early days of a relationship, especially I think when you're a little bit younger. You know, I mean, the euphoria is there. The honeymoon is on. They can do no wrong. They're so beautiful. You know, that's not a problem. That's why many people say you should date a long time, allow that to wane a little bit, get some objectivity. If you're only seeing each other rarely, and you've only dated for a couple of months, I wouldn't exchange rings real soon myself. If it was me, I would definitely walk slowly. I mean, because it's going to come up. It's going to come up when you're meshing two incredibly complex lives. It's going to come up if you decide you want to have children. It's going to come up. It's hard for one partner to go to church alone. It's a hard conversation to have, to say, look, I don't want to go. I'm not interested in church. I want to stay here. It's a waste of time. I don't believe it. I'm not comfortable listening to some guy behind the podium. And they say, yeah, but I'm going to church by myself. How do you think that makes me feel? I'm there all alone. Everybody else is there as a family. We're separated. Those little things start to add up. And it's not impossible, but it certainly isn't easy. Matthew sent a message. He said, an atheist who prefers Christian women is looking for love outside their species. More of an ego or power trip if it happens and doesn't last on the long term unless their level of communication is already retarded. My son's mom is an atheist. Her new boyfriend is an atheist. His grandparents on my side are atheists. Their only non-thinking parts of his life are public education, and grandparents on his mother's side. The only trouble I have in raising my son is trying to keep his grandparents from dragging him to their church and keeping other students from whispering nonsense in his ear at school. These silly speed bumps don't take long to fix with around 10 minutes of logical discussion. Matthew, thanks for the message. 416, you're on the Thinking Atheist Radio podcast. Who's this?
Hello?
416, hi, who's this?
Hi? Hello?
Who's this?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, this is James.
James, what's going on?
Okay, I'm up in Canada, so just say hi from all the people who listen from Canada.
Okay.
I'm involved with a Catholic woman. She's we've been together for about 3 years, and she has adult children. And the funny thing is you know, as they've grown up and developed their education, they've kind of gone to a more atheistic lifestyle or thinking. She still considers herself Catholic, but anytime she's kind of confronted with, you know, just some of the facts of her own religion, she pretty much admits that she's agnostic. So, I mean, I haven't had any difficulties because of the religion. I mean, I think most relationships, the big things aren't usually real problems. It's the little things that bug you on a regular basis. I don't know about you, because as I understood, you are also in a relationship with somebody who's a believer.
Yeah, I am. And it ain't easy. So, I mean, you know, it's wonderful, but it ain't easy. So,
well, it's kind of like talking to a brick wall at times when if the other person can say they believe, even when you've pointed out the obvious flaws of their the way they look at things. Like my girlfriend considers herself Catholic, but when I tell her about things about her own religion, she's like, well, I was never taught that in Catholic school. I'm like, well, there's reasons why they don't tell you these parts.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, so, is it really about what the history is, what the facts are? I mean, when I was religious, it was mostly about comfort. There's a little bit of, for me, there was a little bit of moral superiority there, right? I know something you don't, you know, that kind of deal. Where I've got the message, I'm enlightened, and now we're going to go out and spread the gospel and save all the unwashed masses. I mean, there is kind of a rush. You definitely, there's a little bit of an ego kick, you know, there to know that you've got the secret and you're charged by your holy king to go out and spread the good news. But for me, I mean, they could have rolled over me with a steamroller when my walls were up. I would not have been listening. I just wouldn't have cared. And I think I had to come to a point where I was dissatisfied in my own life and did it sort of organically. I don't know. Does she ever ask any of the hard questions?
You know what? I'm the one who posed the questions to her and just, you know, ask her what does she think about this. And, like, she obviously, or I shouldn't say obviously, she accepts concepts like evolution, and yet she still believes in, you know, Jesus as this godson or deity, you know, Holy Trinity thing that's happening. Yeah. And you know, it's bizarre to me that a person can believe in the smoke and the mirrors when they've already seen behind the curtain.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
this is the seeing the almighty Oz behind the curtain, pulling all the levers, and still believe in the almighty Oz.
It's not a point of contention, though. I mean, you have a happy life, you get along. I mean, your relationship's not defined by conflict or anything like that.
No, it's exactly. But that's the funny thing is it's a topic of discussion, and sometimes you know, she'll jokingly say she's going to pray for me, but it's exactly that. She knows it's a joke to me, and therefore it just kind of rolls off the back.
Yeah.
It's not this condescending type thing. I mean, the biggest arguments have to do with, you know, doing laundry or dishes or that sort of, you know, day-to-day mundane things that, and it's not in any way a problem. It's just that those are more likely to be interfering in your life than what things you believe outside of the world or not.
And you don't wake up in the morning and go, geez, that's just stupid. What are you doing over there? You guys actually find the things you have in common, and you celebrate those and enjoy those, and have managed to put together a happy, healthy relationship. Is that pretty close?
Pretty close, and somewhat celebrate the differences. I think even in her Catholicism, she likes the fact that I've made her think outside of what she knew before. When I introduced her to actual things in just the 10 Commandments, that she said they never read them that way, like the fact that you're not supposed to covet a man's, ass, his donkey or his manservant, and it's like she never heard that. It just wasn't supposed to basically look at other women. It's like, no, that's not quite it. Not supposed to look. It's all about property and money and exchange. I said this goes back to a time when most people didn't have an understanding of law, and so they put it out and had these preachers who would basically enforce the law of sorts through the fear of what would happen if they didn't.
After you guys have that conversation again, you can just tell her about all the commandments that didn't make the top 10 that they want to put in our courthouses. Do not boil a goat in its own mother's milk. Real helpful stuff like that should really keep us on the straight and narrow.
Yes, I'm going to, maybe we'll sacrifice an oxen in some point.
Sacrifice the oxen, you bet. Hey, man, thanks for the call.
I have to say...
Oh, go ahead.
I have to say, just before I go, as a Canadian, I find your politics immensely funny.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Well, welcome to the jungle, man.
Welcome
to the circus down here.
It's funny. It's better than watching the Comedy Channel, just watching the debates and the speakers. It's hilarious. I mean, Clint Eastwood like Bill Maher said, he's done a better stand-up routine than he's done in his comedy career.
Yeah, I feel that way about Joe Biden. Every time Joe Biden goes out in public, the rest of the White House is sitting in a corner sucking their thumb going, please don't let him say anything that's going to screw us. He's the Dan Quayle of our generation. Well, I'm glad somebody's entertained by the chaos down south. Thanks for listening to the show. It means a lot. Thanks for calling, man.
Thanks.
All right, take it easy. Let's see. I've got Sterling sent an email, said, for me, it's similar to a partner disagreeing on a band or a genre of music or a type of food. I tend to be very secular when it comes to religion and friendships or relationships. This would just be another difference of opinions. I would, if it were brought up in conversation, explain why I'm an atheist and allow conclusions to be drawn, but in no way would I push towards deconversion. Michelle says, one of my rigid and unmovable standards is to never get romantically involved with someone who is religious or spiritual. It simply will not work in the long run. And if that means I have to be single forever, then so be it. On that, I will not compromise. He mentioned the fact that Natalie is... she really holds more of a kind of a deistic view. And we've been together for years and built a home together and have a wonderful relationship together that is from time to time tested, because I'm not just a non-believer. I am an activist non-believer who spends copious amounts of time in the studio, prepping the podcast, implementing the podcast, getting the podcast up on YouTube, producing the next video, writing the next speech. This weekend, I'm going to be gone all weekend, going to be in Lexington, Kentucky, doing an atheist event. It's not just that I don't believe, it's that it is one of, if not it's the greatest passion of my life. I mean, more than anything else right now, this drives me. I feel a little bit like Dillahunty said that he felt when he gave up religion. I feel like this is my penance. I am compelled to try to undo some of the damage. It feeds me to be a part of this sort of exposing and perhaps even dismantling of religion And I think I don't like negative conflict, but I do enjoy positive conflict. I don't mind debate and discussion, even some raised voices. When I saw something on television the other night, there was a woman who had given birth to a child with some birth defects. The child had some serious bone deformities in the face. Still a beautiful child, trust me. I mean, just precious. But obviously a traumatizing thing for the parents. Now, this is where religious families will often rationalize. And the mother said something, and I'm paraphrasing. She said something to the effect of a certain percentage X number of births will result in this kind of birth defect. Statistically, here are the numbers. And then she said, I was simply chosen to have this child. Now, Natalie's temperament is, that's a beautiful sentiment. She embraces it. She doesn't reject the child. She loves that child more than anything. And I'm there. I get that. But I yelled at the television, chosen? By who? By what? You weren't chosen. It was a statistical probability. This is all cause and effect. This is explainable. And now we get down to semantics, right? We're talking about chosen. Oh, well, you know what she meant. No, words have meaning. Chosen? Those things. We approach a lot of things that way. And it has been, the thinking atheist community, the time and energy and resources that I have put over the last 3.5 years into this beast, have at times tested the relationship that we have. And, we've survived. We're still kicking. The rest of our life is so wonderful, And, she is beautiful. She's beautiful in her heart, in her mind. She's gorgeous. She lights me up. She is the person I want to be with. And that makes the difficult times worth it. Do we look at each other sometimes and say, man, can we continue? What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? It's got to be difficult. She has asked me at times to reverse the situation. I'm just sharing this with her. I don't know why. And she's absolutely right. Let's say she was a religious evangelist, and she had built an online community, and there were, 100,000 people on the YouTube page, 100,000 subscribers or whatnot. And she was going and speaking at different events, and she was investing a lot of her time in cultivating and producing. Maybe she produced religious videos. Would that be difficult for me? And of course, yeah. I mean, it'd be frustrating. And so it's a discussion that we have from time to time. How are we doing? And I don't know that there's a hard answer. I think it comes down to the two very complex, nuanced human beings who have meshed their lives together. And how do they approach the differences they have? Can they live around those differences? Can you just set it like a piece of furniture here in the corner? And there it is. And then everything else we'll just celebrate and enjoy? Do you like one guy said, we celebrate our differences. You know what? I'm glad you're not like me. I like the variety. It keeps it interesting. Do you wonder if secretly under each other's breath we're going, no, it's just stupid. Maybe not secretly. That's just dumb. It certainly isn't easy. We've made it last for several years, and we're taking it a day, week, month, a year at a time. And what we have is very, very good. I'll certainly take it. 307. You're on the Thinking Atheist Radio podcast. Who's this? 307.
Hey, this is Cade in Montana.
Tell me your name again. Is it Cade?
Yeah, CADE.
Thanks for calling. What's going on?
Well, I finally have a reason to call, I guess. I've been with my girlfriend since fall of 2007, and she's religious. She's Lutheran. And we've been together since then. She's fairly liberal, so that makes it easier to live with her, but difficult to have conversations because there's not a hard line she takes on stuff. Have you dealt with that, or?
Well, as my experience with the Lutherans is that there's a lot of tradition. It's kind of a dry religion. It's kind of a dry denomination, It's more about you go, you clock in at church, you do your time, you clock out, you're off the hook for the rest of the week. And outside of that Sunday service, you don't really give a shit. And that's been my experience with most of the Lutherans. Is that pretty close?
Yeah, and that hits pretty close, I think. And she doesn't really go to church now. She tends to get further away from religion when she's away from her mother, and then when she spends time over there, it kind of refills her battery for that.
Now, are her parents? You have to be on their radar. They know you're a non-believer, right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, the thing is her dad is an atheist, and her mother's pretty hard Lutheran.
So does her mom compensate for that? I mean, does she play the God card every single chance to compensate for the lack of theistic talk from her father, or?
I don't know. I think she holds it as a strong relationship bonder to her daughter, my girlfriend. So I think when I talked to Monique about inconsistencies in religion or kind of the BS magic stuff, she wants to agree with it, but then she has this emotional block that keeps her from pushing any further. So, another example is she has this old car that her grandma gave her, and it's kind of a junker, and she doesn't want it, but her grandma kind of fixed it up for her. And I'm like, well, just tell her you don't want it, and we'll get a nice car, and we don't have to worry about it. And then she's like, well, no, I have to take the car because I don't want to hurt my grandma's feelings and all that. So I kind of feel like it's the same way with religion. I feel religion's a lot more important subject than a car.
Dude, it's a hell of a lot easier to go with the flow. I mean, if you're looking for an easy life, you do not want to be an apostate around a devoutly religious parent.
Yeah, and she's very non-confrontational.
Yeah. Well, is she happy? I mean, does she seem to be in a good place? You guys aren't at odds, right?
No, we have a good relationship. We get along. We have good conversations about other things too. I mean, she's willing to talk about stuff like that. The only thing that bothers me is she said if we ever have a kid, she wants to make sure that they're baptized, and that's the one thing that her mom asked is that we have the kid baptized, and I kind of go back and forth on that about how I feel about that, because in one thing it's just a little water splashing on them, and then you're done and you're out, but then at the same time you're taking your child to a magic ritual where special things happen. So I guess it's
you got me.
Battle of compromise.
My part of me is like, whatever, if I'm looking at the long view, I'm like, well, if the kid's not ever going to remember it and it never comes up again, but I'm not convinced that it's not going to come up again. I think once you get to school age, you're talking about, maybe are you talking about a private school? Are you talking about going back to a Lutheran church? Grandma is going to definitely have an opinion about that. Grandparents are that way. She's already trying to dictate the baptism. Your kid doesn't even exist yet. So I don't know, it's something to keep on your radar. But it's doable.
Mother-in-laws, right?
It's it's doable, and
and clearly, I mean, her parents are an example of that too. So it shows that it can happen anyway.
Well, that sounds like you got a keeper, man. Thanks for calling the show and for listening. It means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Take care of yourself. Greg said, this is about something so core to every individual. I don't see how it's possible to sustain an intimate relationship beyond a few months. And I'm not even talking about the conclusion of atheism per se. I'm referring to the process that gets you there, your commitment to the values behind that process, reality, logic, scientific empiricism, self-knowledge. A commitment to what is true is only viable if you have a methodology that consistently exposes you to the truth in verifiable ways. Religion not only does not have this methodology, it flatly rejects it and condemns anyone who relies upon it. Thus, for an atheist who has arrived at that conclusion by the methodology described above, to remain in a long-term relationship with a committed religious individual, he would have to be satisfied with a life in which the one person who is supposed to love him fully instead openly and regularly condemns him. What kind of a life is that? Laura in Ontario wrote a letter and said, I've been a non-believer since I was 18 and a serious atheist since I was 25. I'm now almost 29. I've been with my husband since 2009, married since 2010. When I met him, I knew he was a Christian, but I was willing to look past that. He was a member of the charismatic movement and frequented churches where it was encouraged to speak in tongues, roll around like a crazy person, and foretell prophecies. Jeez. I should mention my husband is in a wheelchair and was born with muscular dystrophy, a genetic disorder where his muscles will progressively get weaker and weaker until eventually his heart or lungs will fail him. That being said, he was told constantly that his disability was caused by his sin. When his pastor, friend, mentor found out he was marrying an atheist, he was told his disability would progress because of it. He never spoke in tongues, never felt the Holy Spirit, but still held on to the belief, I think, out of fear of death and where he would go, as well as the promise of heaven. Being an active atheist, I constantly would research, watch videos, and listen to podcasts such as yours, and every time it would start a fight, and if he noticed me watching or listening to things, he found it offensive. It would start a debate. I heard all the typical defenses and arguments which made no logical sense. When I expressed my point of view or pointed out the evidence, it was as if he had his fingers in his ears. Then gradually over the last year, he started to watch your videos, listen to your podcast on his own, and started to be critical about religion. Over time, he became more of a deist rather than Christian, but he still clung to Jesus. It was a long process, but I'm now proud to say that for the most part, he no longer believes in the dogma, though sometimes I find him defending little things here and there. It was a rough road. At times, the debating and fighting over his religious views and my lack thereof were devastating. Several times I didn't think our marriage would last because of it, but we survived. And now the religious debating has turned into laughing agreements over it, and we couldn't be happier. Laura, you made my week. Thank you so much for the message. The story about the assertion that his physical condition was caused by sin strikes a real chord with me, if I may digress. My father has a severe hearing impairment. He had a very high fever when he was a boy, and the nerves in his ears were damaged. And they grew progressively worse over the years. He could hear everything at first, and then before you know it, he's 30 years old, and his hearing is really pretty poor, but he can still talk on the phone. He can still hear the phone ring and basic sounds. Growing up, he really couldn't hear much at all. It was all just muffled, nothing. And I would hear these stories about how they would, he would go to church, and they would drag him up front, laying on of some hands, going to call down the healing. Now, my father is one of the most devout and faithful believers I've ever met. Hardcore, to the bone. He is not a pretender. This is the real deal. He buys it. Dragged his ass to the front of I don't know how many churches. Please, Lord, we ask that you come down and your healing be upon this man. Devil, we smite thee. That kind of thing, I'm sure. Take your hands off of his ears and let the sounds flow freely. This is the kind of theatrics that you see in healing services. It's what I imagine in my mind that happened with him. And what do you think the inevitable outcome was? Right at the end of the service, he's still deaf. He's still deaf. Now, what's going on in his mind? I don't know, but it has to be, at least subliminally, did I not have enough faith? Did I do it wrong? Did I ask in the wrong way? Am I not worthy of being healed? Does God want me deaf? He finally just stopped going to church. He'd watch it on TV rather than go to a church because he just didn't want somebody else to drag him up front. Find out he was deaf and, at random. Let me pray for you. Dear Lord, we ask that you remove this deafness. Nothing. Now here's the icing on the cake for me. Years ago, it became possible for him, he became eligible to get cochlear implant surgery. And if you aren't familiar with it, it is an amazing piece of technology that I'm sure is going to develop leaps and bounds in the years ahead. He went in for surgery. They peeled back part of his skull, right? Part of his skin, rather. Not a skull. They embed like a computer or something in his skull. It's wired in to his ear. And he has a receiver on the outside of the skin now that literally he could, when he puts it to his head, it locks on like a magnet. And it picks up sounds in the room and it translates it so that he can hear. Now, it's not organic hearing like you and I are used to. They have to, honestly, the people with cochlear implants have to learn to hear differently. And there are exercises. This is what a pencil tapping on the desk will sound like. This is what my voice sounds like. This is what music sounds like. This is what a car horn sounds like. You have to retrain your brain. But you can hear. You can hear. My dad, he still struggles with some stuff, but he can hear. Divine intervention, zero. Zero. And the idea that somebody might assert, or at least cause in him to have a feeling of, well, I just didn't have enough faith. I wasn't worthy. Even if he doesn't admit it, those feelings are almost inevitable, aren't they? If you believe in the healing power of God, you are in God's house being prayed for and prayed on by God's representative, his ambassador, and probably a host of ushers and who knows who else came out of the seats and put their hands on him, laid their hands on his shoulder and called down the thunder. It makes me physically ill, just makes me so mad. God. Makes me so mad to think about it. And still his eyes are toward the sky, even now. Oh, he's grateful for the doctors. But he's still looking up. He's still looking up there. Praise God. Praise Jesus. Thanks for indulging me. I'm so sorry I went off on that tangent. It is a nerve. It is a nerve with me. Dave sent me a message. He said, I'm strongly atheist. My wife is moderate Catholic. We'll celebrate our 30th anniversary next year. Oh, and we still haven't had our first argument yet. No kidding. What? 30 years? Come on, you never even fought just so you could make up? You know what I'm talking about, You just picked that fight just so you could... Come on, you know what I'm talking about, Dave. 30 years? Really? It's the Cleavers. 412, thanks for waiting. You're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Who's this?
Hello, this is Clay.
Clay, thanks for waiting on me. What's going on?
Well, This topic is near and dear to me. I kind of realized my atheism just a couple years ago after just kind of being basically an apathetic agnostic. I think in hindsight, and my wife of 14 years is a liberal, Episcopal. Pretty moderate, but it was tricky when I came out, and it kind of felt like a deal killer initially because we have 3 little kids, and there was that couple of weeks where it just felt really very tenuous. But I think
what did you do? I mean, did you take her aside and say, "Look, I need to talk to you"? I mean, how did it come up?
Yeah. It had kind of evolved slowly in terms of my getting there. It's kind of the questions bubbling up over a course of a few years and digging deeper in Dawkins and Hitchens and kind of exploring around a bit. But yeah, when I did come out to her, it was kind of a turd in the punch bowl, if you will. but things we've worked out a pretty reasonable kind of fair compromise. I mean, my kids do go to church, but it's pretty liberal, and I kind of view their going there as it being basically, as you said earlier, like a learning the background of religion is not harmful in and of itself. The indoctrination piece I struggle with a bit, but I kind of look at it as anthropological background that'll help them appreciate art and culture later in life. And I feel like it took me basically 40 years to kind of have things bubble up. They're going to have a way better shot of getting there earlier on their own, knowing that they know that I'm a non-believer, and my daughter's one of her favorite things to watch on TV is all about Darwin and evolution, and so I feel pretty relaxed from that standpoint.
Do you think if one of your kids came to you and said, "I'm an atheist," or "I don't believe," do you think that'd be a point of contention though in your marriage?
Yeah, it's kind of my son realizes that it's kind of a hot button on occasion, and he'll throw something out kind of to be he's only 9, but he'll throw out something to try to get a reaction, and sometimes it does come up.
That's great. Yeah, he's getting mom and dad to chew each other's eyeballs out. That's hysterical. Yeah.
Exactly. So but I mean, so in exchange for my kids being dragged to church, I mean, my oldest son now is old enough to go to sleepaway camp, and we got him to Camp Quest this year, and that was cool. I felt like that was pretty cool of my wife to agree to that. So
I've always felt like good decisions really come from good information. I had one, it's like Bill Morgan told me that religion, like when you're like a hard drive and your parents install the religion program, whatever it happens to be, and they never tell you that there are other programs that work or that there's an uninstall. And with your kids, you're essentially saying, look, there are a lot of different programs out there. Here's what they are. Here's what they do. I encourage you to run them. Check them out. I mean, right. I think that's healthy. Yeah.
That exactly. I would agree, and that's kind of where I think my wife see eye to eye, and it's I mean, for me that was kind of like one of my sticking points was never realizing that non-belief is an option.
They never told us, man. They never told us.
Exactly.
God is real. Santa Claus isn't real. The Tooth Fairy's not real. The Easter Bunny's not real. But Jesus is real. Oh, thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad.
I know.
Well, thanks for your perspective, and
it does work out.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear from you, and say hi to the fam for me, okay? Tell them that the infidel at the Thinking Atheist podcast says hi.
I shall do that. Thank you so much for the great service you do. Your show's phenomenal. I really enjoy it.
Thanks for listening. It means a whole lot to me that there are so many people out there who enjoy listening. I love doing them. I keep saying I'll continue as long as people keep listening. So.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, man.
Okay, take care, Seth. Good, great talking to you.
See you later. I had a message from Ron. He said, "I'm an atheist married to a Mormon." Oh, yeah. We started out as friends after we met many years ago in a graduate program, and it progressed a decade later into marriage. We have a live and let live philosophy that seems to work for us. Ron, thanks for the message. That little dark part of me is always thinking. He looks at her, gives her that look, and says, "Come on, baby. wear the magic underwear for daddy tonight. Who's been a bad girl? That kind of thing. Wear the temple garments for daddy tonight. Let's see. I had another message from Chris. I'm 40 years old. We've been married 18 years. We have 2 daughters I absolutely adore. I think religion is the one thing we got wrong about each other early on. I was raised Episcopal, was more or less deist when we met. My wife was a Baha'i, Baha'i. Because I went to private school for 8 years, she thought I had a deep-seated belief in God. From what little I knew of the Baha'i faith, I figured she was laid back about belief in God. I've considered myself an atheist for about 3 years now. She doesn't like it, and simultaneously, I don't get how she can take her beliefs so seriously. I think what saves us is that religion was never a main topic of conversation for us, and definitely not a focal point of our relationship. We can go on raising our kids, second of whom is almost in college, and doing things we enjoy together. I'm supportive when there's an event she needs to go to, and she's understanding when I go to a local talk or even attend a taping of the Atheist Experience. While I no longer see the need to respect religious beliefs, I still maintain respect and love for the people themselves, as well as their right to live how they wish as long as it's not hurting anyone. I don't think either of us sees my change in belief as a reason to end our marriage. Chris, thank you so much for the message. 204, you're on the Thinking Atheist Radio podcast. Who's this?
That's me, right?
It's you. Who's this?
Wait, my name's Artem. I'm up here in Canada.
What's going on, my friend?
Let's see, where should I start? I guess I've been with my girlfriend for over a year, about there. I'm a atheist, obviously. She's a pretty laid-back Christian, very liberal, not like, hates gays or whatever. She's very open to that. That she doesn't. When we first started dating, my atheist friends were like, hey, man, this is going to be a ticking bomb. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. It was really kind of funny at first because I used to be like this huge internet atheist, would like push all these sweet videos from GTA to my Facebook, and then she'd like meet me after. She's like, "Are you angry at God for something?" It was that kind of thing. But now I guess when it got like a bit more serious, there's like, kids are still far away, but she's like, it's that how do I say, theoretical talking of like, what if this? And that, she really wants to like take kids with her to church, which, is not a very good idea with me because it's kind of like, I look at it as kind of like these cult meetings, if anything, or, like youth, that kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Trust me. So did you find an area of compromise? How'd you guys get past it? Or is it still going on?
Well, it's like, it's not very serious, like it just comes up every once in a while, but, I really don't want kids to go to church until they're old enough to really, distinguish between, this and this, and not just, really follow whatever your parents tell you, right? Because once that seed is planted, it's really hard to, like, get rid of it, you know what I mean? And not that, I'm against my children choosing what they want. It's just that I feel like if we would take kids to church very early, we don't give them that choice, to decide for themselves.
Sure, they haven't developed critical thinking skills. They don't have the maturity or to be able to at least they haven't had the information given by you. So they're a total blank slate, and you never know when some overeager Sunday school teacher is going to, grab them and go, "Would you like to hear the story of Noah's Ark?" And they're like, "Oh, wow, what a great true story that is," that kind of deal. So I understand your trepidation.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
I see it kind of as like the Santa story, except, at some point parents tell them that Santa is real, but Jesus, that disillusion is never really gotten rid of. And, it always comes out to be as, her being the victim. It's like, why am I not allowed to take my kids to church, stuff like that. I guess she just doesn't really see my point of view, you know what I mean? But that's about it.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's going to be an interesting few years, but I'm glad you guys have made it work so far. So, I don't know. Keep me in the loop. Call me back in a few months, all right?
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Take it easy. All right. He makes me think of, I thought it was cute when I was a believer. I thought it was sweet. They would bring all these fresh-faced young children into a room, and they would go, and the Sunday school teacher would have them, and they would have their little Jesus coloring books or whatever, their Bible story coloring books, and it could be whatever. You know, to kids, Noah's Ark's a happy story, right? It's not a story about genocide. It's not a story about drowning everybody on the planet horribly. No, it's a happy story with rainbows and animals and boats and doves and olive branches. And you know, these little children, they're like, and they just feed them. It is brainwashing. Who came to earth 2,000 years ago to die for your sins, boys and girls? Jesus. They all just recite it, right? You can almost hear their voices as I do the imitation. And why did Jesus need to save us? Sin. And where will we go when we die? Heaven. I mean, it's just, and I look at it now and I'm like, it's not sweet. It's not cute. It's not precious. They bring these little kids together and they teach them all the memory verse songs, right? They are imprinting. It's a great way to memorize is through music, and they know this. Songs about Zacchaeus, songs about how the walls of Jericho came tumbling down. Teach them all that stuff, and they remember it, and they're taught it as fact, and they just regurgitate it. Regurgitate it. Ugh. The second thing I wanted to address very quickly, and it was brought up by a previous caller, and I slipped and I forgot to bring it up, but I thought it was relevant here. He was talking about how he has a spouse who is goes to the Catholic Church, and when something inconvenient comes up or something that doesn't really jive, she kind of blinks it away, right? Like, well, that was never taught to me growing up. Like, the history of it, the documentation of it isn't really important because it wasn't part of her history, personally, her world. I went to a conference in the 90s. It was called the Abiding Life Conference. And at the time, I really had a ball. I thought it was a great conference. And here I am again looking through the looking glass the other way. And I look at it now, and it's just so obvious. God. But they were talking about disobedience and sin and doubt, right? How do you beat it? How do you get past temptation? How do you get past the doubt, the times when you are not at your best, right? When you are not living the abiding life with Jesus. And he actually said this. He said, in many cultures, when an unpleasant thought comes into your mind, you blink several times to blink it away. And he encouraged everyone. He said, when you feel the devil talking to you, when you feel temptation, when you feel something that feels averse to what God wants for you, just blink it away. I look at it now and I'm like, whenever you see challenge, whenever something doesn't make sense, whenever it doesn't add up, whenever the red light in the back of your head is going beep, 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 you know, we got a problem, danger. Blink it away. That's just so telling. And it's how we are conditioned as religious people to deal with inconvenient things that don't make us feel all warm and fuzzy, and don't give us comfort about our lives and our deaths, and don't make us all kumbaya where we hold hands and look at the sky and get warm and fuzzy. I mean, a harder reality is difficult. Sure, I can see how they would circle the wagons. They would blink it away. I don't want to know. That's the devil talking. 226, thanks for waiting. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. What's your name?
Hey, Seth, it's Mike.
Mike, thanks for calling. What's up?
Oh, not much. I just wanted to say I went out with a Wiccan girl for a while, and I couldn't leave these things alone.
You couldn't do what?
Oh, I couldn't leave her belief alone. I I had to needle. I don't know why, but she said she had psychic powers and this and that, and I would try and present an explanation for her.
Well, I mean, you got me intrigued. I mean, is she, what are the kinds of things that you are inquiring about? What is it that piqued your interest here?
Well, she would say, well, I know what you're feeling, I know what you're thinking, and I would say, well, you can read me. You've got this ability to look at me, and I can look at you, and we can read a million cues, and we can read each other, right? And she said, no. I can see with my mind into yours. I couldn't leave it alone, so I had to break up with her eventually.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense to me. I can read your mind would be a red flag in the middle of a relationship. Didn't you try to think bizarre, jacked up stuff that she would never guess to test her on this? I mean,
all the time.
Yeah.
And she'd never get it, but I always think she did.
Do you think was she a true believer, or was it more of a cultural thing? She enjoyed being part of the culture.
I'm not sure.
She liked the attention, kind of deal.
I think she might have liked the attention, but even with Christians, I can't leave them alone. I can't see the faith that I don't believe in, and not just go needle, needle, needle. Stick my finger in the hole and see if I can pull something out.
I have a feeling then the person who's going to end up in your life will be a non-believer, or it's going to be a lifetime of needling. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. If they end up there.
All right. Well, whoever she is, I'm warning her now. You better bring something to the table. Better back up the arguments, because he's going to try to dissect you piece by piece. Thanks for the call. I appreciate you.
Thanks, sir.
619, you're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Who's this?
This is Danny.
Danny, what's going on?
Hey, well, a few people have said a lot of things about me. My girlfriend and I have been together for 7 years. She's a very devout Lutheran, and I am very atheist. And things have always worked pretty well between us, even though we have that in the way, I guess.
What's your secret?
Well, it didn't really come up until over a year into us dating, and we already don't like the same food. We don't like the same shows. We don't like the same movies. We don't like the same music. So we already knew how to get along with our differences when that came up.
Communication goes a long way. I think if you feel ambushed by somebody's belief midstream, it's probably got to be a little bit harder.
Oh, yeah. We had a very calm discussion the first time. It lasted until like 3 a.m., but it was very civil and respectful, and we understood each other, and we both agreed to continue on with everything, and it's been pretty great so far.
So your opinion is it's doable under the right circumstances?
Right. Although there are issues, we have come up with things that could be an issue, especially kids in the future. She brought up one time that if we were to have kids, that she would want me to tell them that I am Christian until they're like 18 or something.
Yeah, that's a problem, isn't it? I mean, do you really want to deceive your children for the first 18 years of their lives? Why does she get to set the rules?
Exactly.
It'd be like you saying, look, I want you to tell the kids you're a non-believer till you're 18. I mean, turn the tables. Jeez.
Yeah. But right when she said that, it bothered me a lot, and I never agreed to it. But I think she feels that since I'm atheist, I don't believe in anything, so it's okay since she believes in something, type of thing.
God, I get so sick of hearing that. What do you believe in? Nothing, and the truth, nothing could be further from the truth. I don't believe in an invisible spaceman, or animal spirits, or dead ancestors talking to me. I don't believe in any of that. But to say I don't believe in something, I believe in truth. I believe in science. I believe that, life should be lived to the fullest. I believe in joy. I believe in people. I believe in relationships and love and all those things. To say we believe in nothing is so absolutely false, But, well, I wish you the best. 7 years, pretty good track record. I hope it works out for you, and thanks for calling.
You too. Thanks.
All right, take it easy. Let's do one more. 407. Thanks for waiting. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
This is Akeem.
What's going on, Akeem?
Nothing much. I'm down here in Orlando. I was reading the description of your show. I know that it's mainly about atheist couples, but the topic of deconversion was actually in the description, so I thought I'd just ask a quick question about that.
Yeah.
If that's okay with you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm 24. Just became an atheist as of February.
What'd you come out of?
Evangelical Christianity, the one where you believe in falling down on the ground, speaking in tongues, prophesying, casting out devils. Yeah,
that Pentecostal Assembly of God kind of a deal. Yeah, all right, I got you. Those guys are hardcore, so you came a long way. Sure.
Yeah, so basically the long and short of the matter is I'm still dealing with, hearing the voices, weird presences trying to tell me what to do and that kind of stuff. And, one of my biggest concerns is, the future of my life, things like getting married, dealing with the fear of hell, all that stuff, And I've been, trying to seek out a therapist, but the money's been kind of tight, so I've just been listening to your podcasts the last couple months, and they've been a really big help.
Thank you. Well, it's a difficult journey out, and the fear of hell is very real to those who have been, who have dealt with it their whole lives. And especially, I've heard a lot of Lutheran, some Episcopalian on this show. I've heard a lot of that. It is, it is, I think, a different animal to come out of that than to come out of Pentecostal, which is really it's a to the bone, emotional, cry out, jump on a pew, shake the tambourine, Sunday go to meeting kind of a deal. I mean, it's not like you clocked in, went to church for an hour, clocked out, and thought, oh, who's hungry? Pentecostal's hardcore. That stuff is hardcore. Am I right? I mean, is that accurate?
Yeah, because sometimes sometimes I'll have the fear of, oh shoot, what if I run into one of the former preachers or former people I used to associate with, and I got to sit down and have this discussion with them.
You don't have to do anything, man. You don't have to sit down with anybody. But the truth is, you can just look them in the eye and tell them, I have a personal relationship with reality. I mean, just, say it proud, my friend. They're the ones who are positing as fact stories of curses and levitation and walking dead people and 900-year-old men and talking donkeys and talking snakes and an origin of the earth story that involves a dirt man and a rib woman. I mean, when you think about it from that perspective, and they look at you like you're crazy, remember, they're the ones who are standing on crazy superstition and positing it as truth. You're just simply on a quest for what the evidence says, and so far for you, the evidence says God's not really a player in this scenario. This is a cause and effect natural world we live in. I think that's a fair way to live. And you probably like me, if God shows up tomorrow, hey, we'll throw out the original theory and we'll adopt the new one. That's what good science does, right?
Yeah. Let me ask you a last question.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to craft your time here, but sometimes I'll be walking about my day and I'll just have random thoughts of these old songs I used to, songs of what I used to hear out in church, or sometimes I'll literally feel like there's something trying to shut my mouth up. It's like one of those crazy mental tricks, Yeah.
I got an even weirder one. I tinker a little bit on the piano, right? So, and I've always wanted a piano for our home. And so a couple months ago, Natalie and I bought this electric piano. It looks kind of like furniture, sits in the corner, and we now have the music in the home. It really feels good to occasionally we'll sit around and just play the piano. When I realized that all the songs I really know from years ago are religious songs, right? I'm sitting there and I'm like, all the songs I remember are songs from my Christian days and years. And what's weird is I still enjoy the melodies. I still enjoy playing them. I feel a little weird. I'm kind of ready to learn something new, but, to be the host of The Thinking Atheist and you're playing, Great is the Lord by Michael W. Smith, which I learned in 1984. It's kind of a weird deal. I wouldn't read too much into it. Memories happen, recollections happen. I certainly wouldn't prescribe any supernatural connotation to it. It's just, You know, that stuff is embedded deep, and it takes a while to overcome it, but you'll get there. And I think as far as therapy is concerned, just do what I do. Use the online community. Connect with non-believers online, debate online, watch videos online, use the Facebook page, use the forums. I mean, it's amazing how supportive this community is, and it's a reminder that you're not alone, that a lot of people out there are going through the same thing that you're going through. It's a tremendous support system. I'd certainly encourage you to use it, okay?
All right, Seth. Well, listen, let me, this is the funny thing. My middle name is Seth.
Awesome. You know, there used to be no Seths when I was growing up. There were just a few of us, and now it seems to be catching on again. So it's nice to hear that there's some Seths out there. Take care of yourself in Orlando, okay?
All right, Seth. Thanks.
All right, much appreciated. I don't know. I hope that helps the guy. People will sometimes ask me questions I feel ill-qualified to answer. I'm like, well, I can just tell you what I think. But it's not like I get paid. It's not like I heard a great. I was listening. Was it on Sirius XM? Kathleen Madigan was doing a bit on Dr. Laura. She's like, Doctor, how did Dr. Laura get her job? Right? She's like, she calls herself, I forget what she called herself, like a moral champion or something. And she's like, that means at some point Dr. Laura said, you know what, I'm such a moral person, I'm going to start taking calls. Which is exactly, and that's not what I want to be. It's just one guy's perspective. I am fortunate to have a lot of interaction with a lot of people, and I get to benefit from their experiences, and hopefully I can translate that into some beneficial information for you. Thanks to everybody who sent in emails and who called the switchboard and who are participating in the podcast. I will see some of you in Lexington, Kentucky in 4 days, and then in Little Rock on the 27th of this month, and then, of course, next Tuesday night, we're talking atheists on the left and atheists on the right on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Take it easy.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter. Watch dozens of original videos on the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel. And visit our website for resources, links, contact information, the editor's blog, and more. thethinkingatheist.com.